Welcome back, folks, to episode 2. Erin, want to say hello to
Yeah.
everybody?
Oh, hi. I'm glad to be here. Excited. Uh I'm just excited for the second episode. I'm excited to get this podcast going and to share more with you guys about what it is that we're doing here.
Me too. And I feel like this is a perfect episode 2 based on what you just said, because the intention of this time together is to go into what is holistic relationship coaching. I mean, we get asked all the time, like, what do you do at Inner RAE? And really, the truth is, like, our coaching, and Erin can share a lot more about this because she's the founder and creator of all this beautiful wisdom. Is the coaching really draws on many different styles that reflect the diversity of all of the coaches and also the diversity of our experiences and hers specifically. So I think a good place to start is the definitions of these words, because I know Erin, and I know she put a lot of thought into why holistic relationship coaching. And so I'm just going to start with, okay, like what is holistic from a definition standpoint? What is relationship from a definition standpoint? And then coaching. And then I'm going to ask Erin to expand on what those are. So to start, holistic. It's an adjective. It's characterized by comprehension of the parts of something as intimately interconnected and explicable only by reference to the whole. Erin, do you want to expand on that now, or should I?
Yeah, well, I
Yeah,
think I think we'll give people a break from the definitions by
yeah,
maybe chatting a
good,
little bit in
good.
between. Yeah. I know definitions can get a little dry, but I have learned that all words carry a vibration
Mm,
and meaning, and it's really um, in accordance with the four agreements. If you've read that book, like be impeccable with your word.
yep.
And so yeah, it was very it I remember sitting with what do I call this type of coaching? And holistic was actually the last word I picked to
Mm,
put into the title. So I'm glad we're starting here
mm,
full circle, right?
yep.
And I was trying to come up with a word that would, let me think how to say this, not combat. Yeah, combat a very common misconception when I would
Mm,
introduce myself as a relationship coach. One of the first questions I would always get is, oh, you help people date, or oh, you
mm,
help people with their romantic partnerships. And yeah, that's absolutely true. We have a dating plan that helps you date authentically. I absolutely work with couples and help them have more harmony and intimacy in their relationships. But what I have found is, you know, the word holistic was intentional because in my experience, people come to me because of a relationship or because
mm,
of an incident that is relational in nature. And once we start to examine kind of the root of that pattern, they find that that same pattern is showing up in the exact same way in multiple areas of their life, or there's an equal and opposite pattern showing up
mm,
in multiple parts of their life. So,
mhm,
I'll be working with someone and they're like, oh, wow, like how I treat this area of my life is also how I relate to money, or how my partner is treating me is the same way I treat myself as
mm,
related to food and exercise. So
mm,
I found that it would be disingenuous to tell people that I'm helping them with relationships, but not name that, hey, we're going to look holistically at how all of these things are interconnected.
mm.
Um, because that's really my belief system after helping people heal through relationships over the past 8 or so years that I've been coaching. It just would be a lie if I said relationship coach, because it's more than that. So
Yeah.
does that kind of answer why
Oh,
with holistic?
absolutely. I feel like that's perfect. And I also feel like it's a great lead into relationship.
Yeah.
Um, so relationship. So noun, back to the definition. It's the way in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected, or the state of being connected. I mean, you just fully hit on that with your example, but is there anything else you want to expand on within relationship? Because like you said, it's more than just relationship to a person. It can be a place, it can be a thing, it can be a part of who we are.
Yeah. Again, that came out of this misconception that I found. And what I would just expand on there is, I like in the definition how you get the sense of like it being an entity, but also an action, you know? And I think so many times one of the things I hear from clients, I hear this in romantic relationships, but honestly, I hear this more in like long-term friendships or family relationships. This idea that they have this expectation that a relationship is not going to change. And so really understanding that a relationship is about a connection, which involves two different entities. And while it itself is an entity, there's also two separate entities involved.
Yep.
And relationships are always changing. So yeah, just getting really clear about that. So often my clients are grieving because they had this expectation that this person should be their best friend forever, or this family member should always feel maternal towards them, or whatever it is. But that's like expecting spring to not become summer, and summer to not become fall, and fall to not become winter. It's just
Right.
a super unrealistic expectation. So anyway, I kind of went on a tangent, but
No, it's all connected.
oh yeah, it really is, isn't it?
It really is. I have an idea of where we can go with this after we talk about coaching.
Mhm.
So just the definition, right? Again, it's a noun. It's a process that builds awareness, empowers choice, and leads to change. You just talked about change, how relationships change all the time. Um, Anything else that you want to expand on within that? What stands out to you within this definition?
Yeah, so I really felt excited to put that definition on the website because, I'm very, very connected in the mental health and addiction treatment world. A lot of my friends are therapists. A lot of people think I'm a therapist. And listen, therapy is wonderful. And therapy can involve coaching. Like
Totally.
coaching and therapy are not mutually exclusive. But when someone hires a coach, there is an expectation for change. There's an expectation for walking away with something tangible, walking away with a tool, a perspective, a style of communication, a system. And I just felt it was really important to name right in one of the large pages on our website, hey, this is what makes us different from therapy.
Yeah.
This is what you can expect by hiring an Inner RAE holistic relationship coach versus going to a holistic therapist, or going to a cognitive behavioral therapist, or going to a brain spotting and EMDR trauma therapist. It doesn't mean that those other modalities won't also help you and won't also lead to change, but part of why someone hires a coach is they are feeling stuck and they want to change. So just felt really important to outline that there, and that the way that I find change to be most effective is through empowerment.
Totally.
Not just through, oh, here's what you need to do. Here's what I think you need to do. No. Our tools are designed for people to use the framework to fill in who they are into the framework, and then make choices about how they want to change, so that whatever they do, it's from an empowered place.
Yeah. Beautiful. A metaphor is coming in my mind, or an image is coming to me of like, okay, we're all looking at the same thing, but what we don't but we don't always see it the same way, right? So like you may go to a therapist with the same problem that you would come to a coach with, but we're looking at the same thing, but we're seeing it differently. And so like you can look at a mountain and a climber may see a challenge, and a scientist sees like the movement of an ancient glacier. Like a therapist sees potentially a diagnosis where a coach can see like a divine soul really coming home, and the way that we come home is different because we're coming all from different places, and our journey will lead different places. And I'm just thinking of how the curriculum can meet people in such different places, but really guide them home in a beautiful way. So yeah, what's true of mountains is also true of people. And I think, yeah, you're about to say something.
I was, but I don't want to cut off your beautiful
No,
stream
I'm
of
done.
consciousness. Yeah, it was beautiful. I feel like this is just a good moment to address something that is in the like core values of this organization,
Yeah.
which is, you know, in the therapy mental health world, level of care and acuity.
Mhm.
And one thing I like, I usually give this talk when I talk to any new client in a discovery call is, you know, as a coach, we are not treating a mental health disorder.
Yep.
Now that does not mean that someone with a mental health disorder couldn't benefit from coaching.
Mhm.
But we are not the primary modality or treatment for a mental health disorder.
Right.
And that the kind of coaching that we do works beautifully with someone in treatment for a
Mhm.
mental health disorder, but also much like, you know, a physical therapist doesn't try to do back surgery,
Mhm.
and a back surgeon, you know, doesn't take care of you once the surgery is complete. You know, there's the back surgeon, there's the, or, you know, physical therapy, there's, you know, all kinds of steps in between. And so when people are like, oh, I'm discontent in my life, and they go to a psychiatrist, the psychiatrist is going to say, oh, well, here are some medication options,
Mhm.
because that's the tool, right? Like you were saying, that's the
Yep.
lens at which that person is trained often to
See.
look at the problem. Now, some
Mhm.
psychiatrists are also therapists and provide psychotherapy. You know, you go to a brain spotting and EMDR and somatic therapist, and they're gonna take you into your body, and they're gonna,
Mhm.
you know, target these traumatic memories and help you clear. So
Yep.
important.
Yep.
Um, but you come to a coach, and we're going to give you in the moment tools to help you shift and change behavior.
Mhm.
And I'm a big fan of doing that work. That I say this all the time to my therapist friends. We clean up the drama so you can get to the trauma.
Mhm.
And, you know, that is the benefit of coaching, is with this framework and with these tools, we can help people quickly see what is relational chaos, what is relational
Yep.
conflict, what is relational projection versus what interpersonal challenges are actually going on underneath all of that, because so many people stay confused and lost in the chaos of just trying to get their needs met and trying to get connection and trying to feel seen and heard,
Mhm.
and they're like scrambling to do that, but underneath, you know, there's way more stuff going on. And my hope is that we empower people to not live in that distraction
Yeah.
of the relational chaos, and what's left with is either a more peaceful life, or they go and also work with a trauma therapist, or they
Yep.
also maybe talk to a psychiatrist about helping them balance their neurochemistry, or they go get their hormones tested and get some help in that area. So anyway, I'm going on and on, but I just think this is an important thing to say right out of the gate, is I have so much respect and reverence for different
Same.
levels of care, for therapy, for psychiatry. And you will never hear me on this podcast try to pretend to be anything but a coach,
Mhm.
um, and or trash other forms of mental health care, because I think that we're all in this community together, and we're all here to support each other and helping our clients heal.
Amen. Men. I love that. I love that that all came up because it is so important, and at different parts in our journey, we need different support. And a coach can be the glue that holds all that together and can help you notice these different things and point you deeper. But each part plays a huge piece of the overall puzzle. And I think you just hit on it perfectly. And the thing that was coming to me as you were speaking is I keep hearing the word seen, right? So I keep thinking of intimacy, into me, you see. And so I'm curious from where you stand, like how intimacy plays a part in holistic relationship coaching, also where other modalities can come into play, because the deeper you can see into yourself, the more you can start to see, oh, this maybe might help, this might help. So the deeper you see into yourself, the deeper you can see into another. So I'm just curious what's coming up for you around that.
Yeah. And I know we're going to have a really fun episode about
Yes.
the anatomy of relationships and the way that we teach intimacy, but I
Mm-hmm.
will quickly touch on that the definition of intimacy, the way that, we mean it is a lot of people hear me say that and they think, ooh, sex, that, but while that is a part of intimacy, what we are referencing when we say intimacy and what many therapists and clinicians are referencing is the idea of closeness.
Yep.
Like, it's just really that simple. Like, are you able to invite people in to know you at a deep level?
Mm-hmm.
And what comes up inside of you when you are allowing yourself to be fully seen, fully heard, fully understood? And then what obstacles or barriers or blocks do you consciously or subconsciously have for allowing that closeness to exist? And,
Right.
I don't speak about this because this is easy for me. I speak about this because ultimately I think that this is the core of, having an intimacy disorder, having, not knowing how to develop intimacy in safe, gradual, gentle, loving ways, really was the crux of most of my, if not all of my struggles through life up until this point. And one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had was actually, it was with a horse doing some equine therapy. And little horse necklace. Katie was showing us her horse necklace
Yes.
because she is such a horse animal person, but definitely specifically horses. And I was doing some equine therapy at a facility, a therapeutic retreat. And my whole piece of work was feeling the connection between the horse and I, like just feeling the flow of energy between us. If you've ever done equine therapy, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you might think this sounds a little weird, but horses are this beautiful mirror, energetic mirror. And basically, I later discovered that what I was feeling was really just my own energy being mirrored back to me. But it was so intense that all I could do, that whole piece of work, was about me just tolerating feeling that connection. And I just started sobbing. I couldn't even do whatever the activity was that we were meant to be doing. It was just the experience of feeling my own energy come back to me was so unbearable. Because I had I did not have a lot of safe experiences with intimacy. And that in that moment, that horse was mirroring back to me gentle, safe connection. And it was too much. And that was, that was only in like, I don't know, 2013, 2012. It wasn't that long ago that I realized that, wow, I thought my whole life that I had this anxious attachment and I was what they called back then, and some people still use now, that I was this love addict, right? But what I really was I was terrified of intimacy because I had never experienced intimacy in a way that felt consistent and safe and trustworthy.
Yeah.
So feeling that really shifted my understanding of what really was at the core of all of the dysfunction that I had experienced up until that point. Like at the end of the day, this was what I needed to learn how to do.
Right.
And so to me, that's what intimacy is.
That was a really, really beautiful story. And thank you for sharing that. And also, what's coming up for me is, I mean, I think horses are the greatest coaches.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful coaching experience that was through this divine animal. And so a question that came to me, and you kind of touched on this based on, going through that story with us, but is like, what does it feel like to have a coach? And how does courage play into it? Because like you just said, sometimes it can feel scary to be seen. It can feel scary to have intimacy. It can feel scary to have someone creating a soft space for you to land when we're not used to it. But it also is what we need to heal. So I'm just curious, what does it feel like to have a coach? And then also on the flip side, like, what does it feel like to be one and to hold that space for people?
It's a great question. So I have been both a client of coaches and I've obviously been a coach. I would say that, being coached by someone and receiving coaching, a lot of times I experienced it as, oh, wow, this person's reflecting back to me something that I really already knew about myself. Or it could genuinely have been a blind spot, but somewhere in my intuitive system, I knew that something was missing or something was off.
Right.
And that, we might talk for a whole 50 minutes and it was that 1 minute of the call that made it all worth it because I got that one insight or that one tool. I think when I first started hiring coaches or working with therapists or working with different healers, there was this very academic expectation because I, started off my life in academia where I was like, oh, and every minute they should giving me a piece of information and I should be taking notes and I should have 50 minutes worth of information by the end of this call. And like, oh my gosh, that was not what I got from most healers and coaches that I've worked with. And really the people I've worked with where they gave me a lot of information, that was not actually the kind of coaching that I found to be useful. So, where I felt the most benefit from coaching and therapy has been when people, honestly, because of my attachment style and my wounding, they have allowed me space to just fully feel into things. I was explaining this actually to a friend the other day. When I was in college, I was a distance swimmer and my coach would laugh because when I would swim the 200 breaststroke, which was one of my events, I would negative split the whole race. I don't know if you know what that means, but it's when each length, so like if it's a 200, there's 4, 50s or there's 8 25s. And I would speed up where my fastest length was always the last 2 or 3. And he was like, that's not normal, Erin. Like most people are slowing down at the end of a race. And I share that to say that's a lot like what intimacy is like for me. Like I cannot rush into things. So the most useful coaching has been where people have just allowed me to like come in and think I'm going to be getting information from my head, right? Because that's my style. And they've just kind of let me spin out and do that. But then also been like, oh, well, where's that in your body? Or how does that feel? Or, they've just kind of let me be me and allowed me to get safe and become more vulnerable over time. So, in reverse, because what is it like to be a coach? I have to say it is one of the most thrilling, interesting, fulfilling things I've ever done because it is never the same. Every session, every day is different. I literally feel like the luckiest person alive when I get to coach, because each person is so unique, and I really like to honor the fact that every single person who shows up for a coaching call, that is the kind of like self-care that's showing up for yourself in a way that like you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to just pay me money to have me listen to your life and give you tools and give you my insight. Like that requires a certain amount of like self-commitment and humility that a lot of people are not willing to do. So I would say as a coach, it feels like an honor to hold
Yeah.
that space. And just really, I think one of the pieces of feedback I get from my clients is like, I'm really paying attention. I'm just really, really paying attention to you emotionally, energetically, physically, intellectually. Like I'm soaking all of you up, and I'm trusting that with my years of experience and with the collective universal divine force, like just whatever it is that I need to say or do will come out. And I'm simultaneously introducing framework and tools and curriculum because, you know, I have a big, beautiful brain and I like to use it. But it's really about balancing that. And always, every session is a collaboration. So I say to my clients all the time, you know, how would you like this session to go today? Do you have something you want to work through? Is this something where you want me to guide you through some curriculum? Do you want to learn something new? Is there a struggle you have today? And every step of the way is a consensual, contractual agreement that we're in this together. It's not Erin's agenda. And it's also not fully their agenda, because I think that's why they're paying me. But ultimately, like what they want to do and what they want to talk about is always more important than a process or a curriculum or a tool. So anyway, was that what you're asking for? Or was it too literal?
No, that was perfect. It was perfect. And I also, again, love the story you told about swimming, because I think another thing about coaching that is so beautiful, I always like to think of a garden, right? Like, and the connection that comes back of like that swimming story was years ago, but something seeded about what he said in your subconscious that blossomed later in your life of like, wow, there's this deeper connection to intimacy. You know, you don't necessarily think, and this is something I was thinking about this morning too. Like, I also played sports. I've had so many different coaches throughout my life in athletics, also coaches, you know, in this realm. And the connections between, oh, wow, pointing something out, noticing something, and how that's come full circle so many times in my life, where a small behavior may seem like it's not connected to anything else, but it is. And I just love that example you gave, because I feel like it's a perfect
You know what's wild, Katie? I did not even realize that I was talking about coaching and I brought up my swim coach. Like I literally had never, you just pointed something, like I just learned something. I just had an aha. So
well, there we
thank
go.
you.
You're welcome.
This is why we heal together and not in a vacuum.
We heal together. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really all about noticing. Like, you wouldn't know that that's what you were doing in that. Right. And I was thinking about too, like the greatest coaches I've had, it's literally just noticing from a different perspective, a different lens, sitting in a different place and being like, hey, did you realize you were doing this? Do you know where this is coming from? Or maybe you don't know yet, but just that awareness, just that reflection back creates a whole shift and empowers choice and leads to change. So yeah, and it's funny, I didn't even realize, speaking of behaviors, like, I mean, I have these around me, right? Because I think that they're like related to coaching. But as you were talking, I just like unconsciously grabbed this star, and I was just thinking of radiance. Like, I mean, you haven't shared about the fact that you were a swimmer and all these different things, but it came up and I was just like, just started grabbing this. And I just thought it was interesting from a behavior standpoint. I'm not sure why, but I think another part of you is getting a chance to shine. And another piece of beautiful wisdom came through about how things are all connected and how coaching through the different ages connects and seeds and helps us see something new. So that's really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions and the space, Katie. And just my hope is that each week we can come in here and share some new perspectives and light you up and empower you. And I'm just grateful to be sharing this space with you.
Yeah, me too. This was great.
Well, until next week.
Until next week. See y'all.